Hello, we welcome you to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. My name is Goodluck Ofebu. This is my wife,
Obi Ofebu.
And today we have guests, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Ukeze Ifio. And my name is Linda Chidubelu.
My name is Enoma Gilgame.
And they are visiting us from Dallas, and they actually belong to an organization that had a function today in San Antonio. And I'll let Ify tell us about the organization.
Yeah, we are from Sisters Fellowship International, Dallas Fort Worth area, and we're here. We started a new zone today in San Antonio, Texas.
We welcome you, and we welcome you to this Bible study, which continues our study on responding to adversity. We all encounter different adverse situations in our life, and as Christians, what should we do? What should we do to get our way out of the adversity? What should we do when we are living in circumstances that we think are not quite what they should be for us? Circumstances that we describe in general as adverse conditions. And we don't have to go too far to find out what to do, because the Bible is actually filled with examples of people that went through adversity, different types of adversity. So we look at the adversities they went through, look at how they lived their life, and what happened, what did they do that helped them emerge from the adversity. A particular example that we started recently is the life of Mordecai. Mordecai was one of the Jews that were taken captive when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Judah. And he lived in very modest means. He faced the adversity of poverty, as we know, but more important, he faced the adversity of persecution, of seeing himself as having done something to lead to a conspiracy to annihilate his people, a conspiracy to kill all the Jews in the kingdom. And he emerged from this adversity. In the previous lesson, the first installment on this, we looked at his life in captivity and looked at the type of things, and generally saw that he was committed to worshiping and serving God, and many things he did, even in the presence of adversity, illustrated this. Now today we will see how one of the actions he took, his refusal to worship an agent of the king, actually started the conspiracy against his people, and we'll see how he protested and how he enlisted the help of his daughter, that was now the queen of the land, to protest the adversity. But let's not peek into it, because we are going to go through in detail. As I said, we are going to look at how Mordecai overcame adversity, the adversity of poverty, the adversity of threats to not only his life, but the life of all of his people. And as we saw in the previous study, and we're going to see more today, is that Mordecai overcame the adversity because he remained committed to worshiping God, even in the presence of adversity, even while he lived through circumstances that were really difficult for him. We will see that he triumphed over a conspiracy against him. Of course, this is not just against him, but against him and his people, the Jews. We are not going to see that part of the account today, but we will see the things that led into it. And of course, he overcame his enemies and overcame poverty. We are going to study this based on the account in Esther chapters 3 through 9. Today's study is actually in chapters 3 to 5, I think. take it from there. And then the rest we'll do in another Bible study. As we saw in the last study, Mordecai, in his life in captivity, did 3 things that actually helped lay the foundation for him to get out of adversity, for him to conquer the adversity. One of them was that he raised his uncle's daughter, the person that we now know as Esther. He raised him. Esther's parents died early in her life, and Mordecai took her over and raised her as his daughter. And then, in fact, helped advise Esther to enter a contest to replace the queen of the land, and Esther won this contest. You will see that this became one of the key things that eventually helped Mordecai defeat the adversity that he faced. His kindness, his compassion to this young woman that needed help, his uncle's daughter. You will say that it is his uncle's daughter, but it's just somebody that needed help, of course, related to him, but at the same time, he identified the need and did what he could to address the need. Then, while under the, should I call it, oppressive leadership of the king, he uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. And you would have thought that somebody like that would say, well, let him get what is coming to him. But no, he recognized this as a threat to a fellow human being, and a threat to the authority. Yes, evil. Yeah, the people planning evil. So he exposed it, he reported it to Esther, Esther reported it to the king. And of course, he got nothing for it at that time, but this actually went into the chronicles of the king's history, and eventually became one of the things that played a key role in his defeat of the triumph over adversity. But the very last one, somebody that the king promoted to a very high position and then expected people to perform an act that is to respect him in a way that suggested worship, that Mordecai interpreted as worshiping, and refused to perform this act because he considered it an act of worship. And because he refused to worship any other god in the form of that was presented to him in the form of this person, Haman. This actually led to that is, he did this he was threatened that if he didn't do this, he would be punished, but he stayed focused on the fact that he worships God and does not worship any other person, does not worship a fellow human being. And it was this actually that triggered events that eventually led to Mordecai conquering being lifted above his captivity. We have studied these three aspects of Mordecai's life in captivity. We are not going to repeat them, but we'll start from the third one, because the third one was the one that actually triggered the events that we are going to study today. So Mordecai, the king promoted Haman, one of his assistants, to a very high position, and then said that, decreed that people should fall down and worship him essentially whenever he came around, whenever they are around him. Everybody did this, they would bend down and greet him and do all sorts of things, but Mordecai refused. He didn't do it. People put pressure on him, his fellow people that knew him. Mordecai worked as an attendant at the king's gate. So a lot of that exposed him to a lot of people. They talked to him and said, look, you have to bow down to this man, because that's what the king said. Mordecai told them that, oh, I cannot do this because I'm a Jew. And being a Jew, he was just reminding them that Jews are pledged to worship and serve God and not worship any other being. When Haman was informed that Mordecai refused to worship, refused to bow down for him, he, of course, said, okay, so Mordecai will be punished for doing this. But Haman they already have a lot of hatred for Jews, Mordecai's people. And he saw this as an opportunity to deal with the Jews, to do something that he had always wanted to do and hadn't had the opportunity. So the action of Mordecai became for Haman an opportunity to plan an evil action against the Jews. He went to the king and said, look, there is these people that are all over your kingdom. They live a separate life, they have a different culture, and they don't respect you. What should we do? Essentially, he got an authority from the king to do whatever he wanted to the Jews. And he used that authority to issue a decree. It's unbelievable what is in this decree, where it essentially says that every Jew in the land and in the kingdom under Xerxes will be killed on a particular day, until the 13th day of the 12th month. The 12th month, I believe, is December, so that was going to be their present for Christmas. There wasn't any Christmas at that time. So that they were going to kill all the Jews in the land. And this was an open decree. It's not like people are whispering or anything. It was published openly. They were going to do this. So let us read about this in Esther chapter 3. We've selected verses 5 to 6, 8 to 11, and 13 to 15. Yeah, the reading will be coming here. So let us start with Obi.
Okay.
Or honey, do you want to make an opening statement before we start?
Well, we've gone quite deep into it, but it's all that you have said. Yeah. Oftentimes it's very difficult for us when we look at the account of Esther and Mordecai to see the adversity that Mordecai had to live through. We oftentimes focus on Esther and how God used her as more or less to save the Jews from annihilation that was planned for them, and how God can pull one person, the same God that is pulling one person down, that's pulling down Queen Vashti, was raising up Queen Esther. We see all that, but the issue of how did Esther get into the king's palace, and it being an appointed time and a purpose that God has set in place. And somebody had to, if you look through all Bible, God always, like the message we were hearing my sister talk about today when we were at the SFI meeting, God, when the hand of God is in something, he plans it way ahead of time. And the vessel that he will always choose, there's always a way of adversity that they go through. They may not see it at that time. When Mordecai was being captured and brought into the king's place, he didn't know he was going to do what he did. And he lived through it, through that adversity. You can imagine the child you raised. You were not allowed to reveal that you are related to this child. He had to know that she was there, and she had risen to a place of prominence. This is the king's wife. But Mordecai was still serving there in penury. He couldn't benefit from that relationship. He couldn't reveal who he was and all that. So the pain of it is like seeing a father, you see your child. And then on top of that, the thing he had to go through in terms of persecution. Because like you said, Haman was an Amalekite. Mm-hmm. Remember that the Amalekites and the Israelites were sworn enemies. God gave a command that the Israelites should kill them and remove their martyrdom, because these people were people that wanted to dominate. So they were sworn enemies. Okay, so things couldn't have been rosy for Mordecai. Living under the service of somebody like Haman. And that's why he kept on plotting. So all these things were persecution, which oftentimes we don't see, but it's good to see that God used Mordecai to usher in Esther. And he had to live through, make sacrifices.
Yeah.
He had to live through those adversities. He had to cope with those adversities in order to birth what God wanted to do with Esther. So it's for me, it's a very unique thing to look at in this bit of the story.
Okay, let's go into more details with the first reading from Esther chapter 3, verse 5.
Okay. So we're reading from the book of Esther chapter 3, reading from the New International Version, and I'm sure my sisters have their own if they want to read, but I think we are reading from what is projected.
Yeah.
So verse 5, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Verse 6, yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes.
Yeah. Okay, Ife.
Verse 8. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people despised among the people in all the provinces of their kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's law. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them.
Okay, yes.
Esther 3, verse 9. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give them 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrator for the royal treasury. So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman's son, son of Hammedatha, the Agagites, the enemy of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Haman, and do with the people as you please.
Okay.
Esther 3, verse 19. Dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Verse 14. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality, so they would be ready for that day.
Okay.
Okay, let me start from 15.
Yeah.
The couriers went out, spurred on by the king's command, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered.
Yes, the city of Susa was bewildered indeed. What has happened here was that Haman received the authority of the king to do whatever he wanted to the Jews, and he used that opportunity to publish a decree in the king's name. The decrees, and this decree was published in all the provinces and in every language. The kingdom of Xerxes extended from India through Egypt, so all over a large region. Okay, that's Persia and some of the very large area at that time, very large kingdom. And all of the provinces, I think there were 127 provinces or something. Yeah. So they published this decree in the language of each province, and it was made law in every province that on the 13th day of the 12th month, every Jew will be killed. And so it's like buying a goat and tying something around it, waiting for Christmas to be killed. They were told, yes, you will be killed on this day. Yes. So this was really very serious, and the Jews, of course, they mourned and they were getting ready to be killed and all that. And but Mordecai saw that this needed to be protested. So what did he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, that is, dressed himself in the mourning, in their traditional way of showing that they were mourning. And then he wept loudly, wept all over the city, just like other Jews were weeping. But he went all the way. He wanted to protest to the king, but he was not allowed to enter the king's gate because he was wearing sackcloth, and he didn't want to get out of sackcloth because that was a symbol of his mourning, a symbol that something terrible had happened. So what he did, he stayed at the king's gate, but he never left there. He stayed there to, I think his hope was that he was going to get the king's attention somehow, to ask the king to protest to the king. While he was protesting at the king's gate, his daughter, I call him his daughter, found out what was going on. Then sent people to the gate to go and find out why Mordecai was protesting. In fact, he sent him clothing to change. But Mordecai, realized that Esther didn't really understand what was going on. He said, "No, I'm not going to change." Then he told them what was going on. He told them why he was protesting, and sent message to Esther, and asked Esther to appeal to the king. We'll come to the details of his interaction with Esther, because I think that's one of the key lessons of this Bible study. But let us read about the protest, the conspiracy, and the protest against the conspiracy in Esther chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. Okay. This time we start from Ifi, and let us continue the same way.
When Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wearing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it.
Okay.
In every province to which the edicts and order of the king came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's eunuchs and female attendants came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of the sackcloth, but he would not accept them.
Okay, next page.
Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city, in front of the king's gate.
Okay,
Verse 7. Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews.
He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and explain to her. And he told him to instruct her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people.
Okay, well, so Mordecai he wanted to protest to the king, but he couldn't. But he made contact with Esther. Esther sent people to meet with him, so he used that opportunity to appeal to Esther and say, "Please, go to the king and make an appeal and find out, find out what is going on and ask for mercy. Well, Esther sent back message. We're going to read this. Esther sent back message and said, if you go in the presence of the king, you get in trouble. The king has one law and one law only about people that come into his presence without being invited. It's that they get killed immediately. Unless the king has compassion on you and extends, essentially allows you to come in by extending the scepter, his staff or something to you. A symbolic way of saying, okay, you can come. You won't be killed. So she told this story. I think the implication was that she was not going to be able to go to the king. And then Mordecai rebuked her and said, what? Do you think that because you live in the king's palace that you are going to escape? No. He said, look, you are a Jew and you are going to be dealt with like every other Jew. Then he said, look, remember that this may in fact be an opportunity that God, it's quite possible that God placed you in the palace so that you can deal with situations like this. That then he said, look, Jews are going to get relief. They are going to be delivered. You either be the person to bring them relief and delivery, or you get perished with the others and someone else will bring them delivery. So you say, look, Jews are not going to be annihilated. They are going to get relief from this. They are going to be delivered. Do you want to be the person, or do you want some other person to do it? It's either you or someone else. God blessed you and gave you the opportunity. So he really talked to her and convinced her. And then on that ground, Esther said, okay, pray for me. So she asked for 3 days of prayer and fasting among the Jews. And she said that she and her attendants will also pray and fast. And then at the end of the prayer and fasting, that she will go to the king. And if that meant that she will be killed, she will get her killed. Let us read about this. We'll discuss it a little more, but it's in Esther chapter 4, verses 12 to 17. Who was the last person to read?
If you like us.
Yeah, we're going to go to Linda.
Okay, Linda, yeah. Chapter 4, verse 12.
When Esther's work were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone and all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this.
Okay, next.
Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. 16. Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions.
So as soon as Mordecai realized that Esther had made a commitment to go to the king and that Esther had asked for prayer and fasting, he decided to leave the protest. And now it's time to focus on praying and fasting to prepare Esther to go and meet with the king. Well, I want us to look through what we learned. The rest of the account Mordecai's triumph over his adversity will be in the next Bible study. What we did today actually was just look at the conspiracy and his protest against the conspiracy, and then how he convinced Esther to join the protest, to make a commitment to go and meet with the king. But there is something, a key thing that we have learned here is that while Mordecai was knee deep in his adversity, that and his commitment to live by that is his commitment to worship and serve God remained in force, but he lived by this commitment. And it was his refusal to worship Haman that was the final trigger that actually started the process that would lift him out of adversity. So his refusal to worship Haman ignited the conspiracy. It was because of that Haman decided to make a conspiracy to destroy all the Jews. He wasn't satisfied with the opportunity to kill Mordecai. He said, no, that's not enough. I'm going to use this opportunity to kill all the Jews. So that started the conspiracy. Of course, Mordecai protested, along with other Jews, protested the conspiracy, and it was in his protest that he got to enlist Esther. But enlisting Esther was not easy because Esther was really afraid of what would happen if she went to the king without being invited. Then ultimately, as we'll see in the next Bible study, this chain of events led to Mordecai's triumph over his adversity. There is something important we see here is that at the time that the events that will eventually take him out of adversity started, the first thing that happened was things got worse.
Yes.
Remember, his refusal to worship Haman led to a conspiracy to destroy all the Jews, to kill all the Jews. So at this point, this is where somebody that is not strong in faith, or that is does not remember the meaning of being committed to worship God. This is where you say, hey, I've done everything right. What's going on? Yeah, why not just kill me alone? Why do you want to destroy all these people because of me? Why is God punishing me? What did I do wrong? If this went through Mordecai's mind, we don't know. But what we know is that his actions still showed that it's not only that he's committed to being a child of God, but he lived it. For instance, when he invited Esther into the protest and realized that Esther was reluctant, the way he talked to Esther was based on his really understanding of what might have, the reason for the things that might have happened in Esther's life. He didn't know the reasons, but he thought of them from the point of view of maybe there is an overall purpose that God was trying to accomplish through this young woman, and that she's going to lose the opportunity because she's afraid of what might happen to her. Okay. So that is one of the lessons here, that in dealing with adversity, it doesn't matter the kind of situation you face, it doesn't matter the kind of hardship, it doesn't matter the kind of unpleasant conditions, that you remain focused on worshiping God, of always interpreting things with respect to your commitment to worship God, with respect to your understanding of how God's purpose may be unfolding in a given situation. Then, even if things appear to get worse, which often they will do, it happens, It's not the end. Don't see it as the end. It might even be the beginning of your emergence from adversity. Okay. There's one more point before I hand it over to you people to make more comments. And this is about the interaction between Mordecai and Esther. We already know, we read it. Esther was reluctant, but Mordecai did not immediately accept her excuse, or rather, Mordecai had to make a judgment that the reason she gave, the reason she was reluctant to enter the protest was not strong enough, that she needs to look at a higher reason that is in a higher purpose that she had been placed in position to accomplish. Okay, so he identified what he think, the way he believed that Esther should. Remember, Esther was already an adult. Was his daughter, but she was already an adult. So it's very easy for Mordecai to have said, well, okay, if you don't want, you don't want. But he didn't want to just leave her alone. He used the opportunity to talk to her, to hold her accountable and say, look, young lady, this is what I believe you should be thinking about. I know you are afraid of going to the king, but there is a bigger purpose at work here that I want you to understand, and I want you to pay more attention to it than what the king might do to you. And what this tells me is that every one of us needs to hold his child. I put child in quote because it's not really about children, it's about people that are under your supervision, either as children or as young adults or even older adults. Hold them accountable. Obviously there is a judgment to be made. Nothing is, purely black or white. But if based on your understanding of God's purpose at a particular time, your appreciation of what the purpose might be, and you think that they are about to do something different, don't be afraid to rebuke them. Don't be afraid to hold them accountable. Because if Mordecai didn't do what he did, I don't think Esther would have joined the protest.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
Only, yeah. It's open now for more comments before we wrap up.
I think you have covered most of, you've covered quite well most of the lessons that we learned. For me, one thing that studying this, the events that took place or the things that happened to Mordecai, looking at life applications, which is, you see, the Bible events are set for us. For us, when we read them, we'll be able to understand how to apply them to our lives.
Yeah.
That's why these accounts are there for us. So I always like to look at life applications because we're living in a real world. We're real people living in a real world, And although anything happening to us now is not different from what happened to the people of old or the days of the Bible times, but it's the same, may not be in the same way. Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at how we apply this now, for me, the first thing that came to me is when you are faced by adversity, faith is very important. Having faith in God. And how do I know this? Look at when Mordecai was rebuking Esther. He said one thing, the Jews will be saved.
Yeah.
He said the Jews will be saved. He had no means except God. So he said the Jews will be saved, but you, because he knows that God will deliver the Jews anyhow. But you that has been chosen to do this, to usher in this, may not be spared. So that faith he had,
Yeah.
he didn't have faith in human being. He didn't have faith in Queen Esther. He had faith in God.
Yes.
That this thing he's asking God for to save the Jews will be saved. Whether you take part in it or not,
Yeah.
God will find a way. So faith, unwavering faith in the thing you in what you profess, in God that you believe in, is very important. Because the same Bible says that if we have faith, we can say to this mountain, be thou removed, without doubt, and it will be done. So faith is one thing that I saw that Mordecai exhibited here. Okay? Through his admonition of Esther. The second thing is something that you mentioned. Realization of purpose. Mordecai realized that there was a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
There was a bigger purpose for which Esther was there. Because God may have put you in a position for such a time as this.
Yeah.
Mordecai was like the midwife trying to birth, Esther being able to do this and to birth the saving the Jews from annihilation.
Yeah.
And it's always good whenever we're facing adversity to go back and ask, what is the spiritual undertone in this thing that we're going through?
Yes.
There must be a higher purpose. God, what is the higher purpose? Because if you can fix your eyes on the higher purpose, it helps you to overcome the adversity that you're facing.
Yes.
Every event that happens to us, there's always, God is not, he doesn't waste his time. He's not a God that deals with trivialities and wastes his time. If he permits us to go through things that sound like adversity to us, there must be a higher purpose.
Yes.
And if we realize that higher purpose, then it helps us. And then, when we walk passionately towards the purpose of God, it attracts persecution. Mordecai was walking passionately towards the purpose of God. And that was bringing it. He didn't know it at the time, but the devil saw it. When, as human beings, when we are faced with adversity, you will just be in the back of your mind that when you begin to walk passionately, and it's not something we should be afraid of, but because God said he will deliver us from them all. If there's no destiny to fight, devil will not go there.
That's true.
If Mordecai was not going to be instrumental to saving the Jews, because Haman hated the Jews, he will not attract that hatred from them. Another example here is Peter. Remember Peter when they went for, was it the last missionary journey or the one that they had a storm? Was it Peter?
Paul
Or Peter? Acts of the Apostle.
It was Peter.
It was Peter. It was Peter. They survived the storm. Then they got to after the shipwreck, they got to the island. And they made fire and snake.
That was Paul in Rome.
In Rome.
When he was going to meet with the emperor.
When they were captured prisoners.
Yeah.
And the people were going to shoot them and say they didn't want the prisoners to. Okay, sometimes these things confuse us, but the important thing, it was Acts of the Apostles chapter 27,
Yes.
28. Look at it around that place.
Yes.
So the
27.
yes, the important thing is that when they made that bonfire, the heat from the snake was in the wood. But when they made the fire made the snake come out. The snake that curled around the hand of Paul. Still trying to kill that destiny. But what did Paul do? He shook it out back into the fire. So fire, when the fire of God is in you, snakes will come out.
Amen.
When the fire of God is in you, it will make snakes to come out because they want to kill that destiny. And all we have, so when you see that adversity, all we have to do is do what Paul did.
Shake it up.
Shake it up.
Yeah.
Back into that fire. And that's exactly what happened to Haman. That fire, that thing he wanted to use and kill Mordecai. That fire that drove out the snake consume the snake.
Hey. Wow.
So when we are faced with adversity, let's look for the Father, I thank you. Let's look for the bigger picture. Because those snakes did not come from nothing. So when I look at what Mordecai went through, I just see this in the adversities he had to.
Because they will always try during adversity.
Yes.
They will always try.
Yes.
But what follows?
Yes.
Okay, more comments or question or whatever. Anything is welcome.
For me, everything spoken is well spoken, and I totally agree. But one thing that touches me about Esther, like the word of God always say, train up a child the way they will go. When they grow old, they will not depart from it. The way that Mordecai brought her up, in admonishing and in knowing the God that they serve. And immediately after Mordecai spoke to her, the way he spoke to her,
Yes.
he recollected.
Yes.
He got himself. And being a child that was brought up in the ways of God, what did she do? She said, pray for me.
Yes.
Pray for me.
Go and fast.
Yes.
He knew that the only way to go through this, it is not by flesh, not by might, but it is only the power of God. And where do we draw the power? From prayers, from fasting, from the word of God. And he said what? When you are facing adversity and when you know what you are doing, it is like, it is not me, it is God. And she said, if I perish, I perish. But this we will do. And then, the rest
It shows the upbringing.
it shows the upbringing of the child. Train them the way.
And
And
it shows
Proverbs 6:22 said,
Yes.
when they grow old, Esther did not depart
from it.
from what Mordecai taught her. It was what Mordecai taught her that saved the Israelites. Praise the Lord.
And this, another part of it also showed that Mordecai did his work.
Did this very good well. And that was why he insisted and telling her, it's like,
Yes.
do you remember your roots?
Yes.
Do you know where you are coming from?
Yes.
Go back to your roots so that your people will be delivered.
Because as parents, we know each of our children. There are some children that will say, forget about it. Even if you say this, forget about it. It's not going to move them. There are those that, based on who you know they are and what kind of upbringing you have given them. So it's very interesting.
What I want to add to it is Mordecai told Esther that who knows, maybe God has put her there at that position for a time like this. So if we bring it down to our lives, you see that just like the Bible says that God will not allow any temptation anything greater than us to come to us. That you find out that any place that God has put us, wherever we are in life or wherever we are, that God has, that is the reason that God has positioned us to that place to serve others, which is one of the reasons. Just like Esther used that position to deliver his people. So God has placed us there, just like the ministry is the banking blessings. That God has positioned you wherever you are, so that you can reach down and be a blessing to others, draw up somebody, help somebody, or be a covering to somebody else that you are greater than, or in one way or the other. So it's always good to use whatever we have or whichever position we are to reach to somebody else, to be a blessing to somebody. Just like in SFI Dallas, there's this thing that mommy gave to us last year, just something she wrote down, and she prayerfully wrote those things down, and we cannot testify that whatever you picked is you. Something she Bible passage or something she just wrote down, covered it, and everybody picked. She wrote that thing in Nigeria prayerfully. She brought it to Dallas. Everybody, you pick yourself. But you picked it without knowing what is inside. And when you open it, you see it's telling something, telling
about
you. Yes, it's ministering to you. So what I got when I opened my own, it says, my daughter, whenever if you hear the cry of the poor, do not hearken your, shut your heart, so that when you cry, God will not answer you, something like that. So that kind of changed my life somehow. Not that I don't listen to people, but it makes me to listen to people more. It makes me to, help people more.
Reach out to
people more. Knowing that wherever I have, whoever I am, wherever I am, it's not just for me. It's also for somebody else. So that's something that really ministered to me tonight. That wherever we are, whoever we are, wherever we are, it's not just for us.
For the God purpose.
Because the kingdom business is just me, myself, and I. It's for somebody else.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Okay, any more?
For me, what touched me in this Bible study today is the faith of Esther. The faith she has in God after she declared fasting and prayer.
Yeah.
She said, if I perish, I perish. One thing that God loves most is when we give our all
To
to surrender completely unto Him. He loves you so much. God knows our hearts. And she was saying it genuinely.
Yes.
And she believed
Yeah.
that God will answer her. She said, if I perish, I perish.
Yeah, whatever
And that,
happens.
whatever happens, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And she surrendered it totally to God.
Hallelujah.
And God answered her.
Yes. Yes, she saw going to the king as potentially a sacrifice of her life, saying, okay, if that's what happens, let it happen, that I will go to the king. And in the next Bible study, we'll see what really happened when she went to the king. Well, we thank you for joining us in this Bible study, and we remind you that all our previous Bible studies and the ones we will do in the future are available through our website, bankingblessing.org, bankingblessing.org. And we thank you each time you look at any of the Bible studies that we have there, that you should learn something. We pray that you will learn something that will make a positive impact on your life and bring you closer and closer to God's purpose for your life. We thank the Sisters Fellowship for joining us today, and we pray that this will be the beginning of something, a good interaction between the two organizations. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.